So today we're going to be going over the compliance and command process, and we're going to talk about how to get your documents into your opportunity, both from DotLoop if you have documents that still need to be moved over, and also pulling them in directly from DocuSign using the integration. And we'll also talk about how the compliance process works and how it differs from what people were used to in DotLoop. And we'll also go over just some like tips and tricks and kind of housekeeping type stuff on your opportunities. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to screen sharing so that I can demonstrate some things for you. Okay, so can everybody see my command on my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
just want to make sure I have the right one up there. I'm still getting used to Zoom too. Okay, so you can see this is my command opportunities dashboard. So I have my listings pipeline, my buyers pipeline, and my leases pipeline. And I've gone ahead and created an opportunity to use for training purposes here. It's in my active phase. So I'm going to open up my opportunity. And you'll see in the opportunity when you create it, everything that you put in at the time that you create it shows up in this general information in the details tab here. And when you're filling in the details, you want to make sure when you name your opportunity that you include the property address. On a listing, obviously you'll have that at the time that you create the opportunity. With a buyer, you won't have the property address until later in the process. So just make sure that you come back and edit that and add the property address later. And that can go before or after the opportunity name that auto-populates for you. So when you create the opportunity, the default name is the contact name dash listing or buyer, whatever the opportunity type is. You can come back and edit the details on your opportunity at any point in the process. So as the transaction moves along and you have the additional dates to put in, such as when this one is a listing opportunity. So when you won the listing agreement, you can put that date in. You can put in the contract date when it goes under contract. And you can put in the closing date when you get to close. If the estimated listing price, if that price gets negotiated as part of your sale contract, if you need to increase or decrease that, you can change that as well. So anytime you make any changes, you want to make sure you save that. Something you can also do is this property box here in the details. You can actually link this to the property information in the MLS. So if you hit the little pencil there, you can search for the address and then save that, and it'll attach the property information. That just gives us another way to search for your opportunity. And I do want to point out too, just make sure that you keep an eye on where in the pipeline you have your opportunity. So again, this one I have in the active phase, which is right here in the middle. Your opportunity is only searchable by the market center when it's in active, under contract, or closed. So when you create the opportunity, if it's in the cultivate or appointment phase, it's not considered by the system to be one that the market center has to have access to because it's not an active transaction yet. So they are not searchable unless you have them at least in the active or under contract. And just another note about the naming of it, when you do put the address in, you don't have to include everything up to the zip code, but we do ask that you put the city and state in because we do have agents that are working in both Pennsylvania and New Jersey. And we only have one file reviewer that reviews New Jersey files. So it just makes it easier for them to find the files that they need to concentrate on when they're doing compliance review, if it has that New Jersey in the name, so that they can just search that way and not have to open each opportunity to see which state it belongs to. So I'm going to switch over to the Documents tab here, which is in the opportunity. So when you start working with the opportunity, you're going to choose the checklist type. So we do have custom checklists now for listings. So you would choose PA residential, or New Jersey from the drop down there, and that will populate your compliance checklist. So your compliance checklist gives you a list of all the documents that are required or conditionally required for this type of transaction. And then it has these file placeholders on the right-hand side, which is where you will upload your completed documents. So there are no blank documents in Command. Command is just where you're going to put your completed documents in the placeholders to store them, and so that the compliance reviewers have access to them. So you'll see we have a listed checklist and an under contract checklist, as well as a closed checklist. You can also create your own custom folders. So if you wanted to add a custom folder for, let's say there were repair receipts and invoices for the home that you wanted to keep track of, it's not something that the compliance reviewers need to see, but you want to keep them as part of the transaction, you can create a custom folder and keep those things there so that all your documentation for the transaction is together in one place. And you can make as many custom folders as you like. So for the listed checklist, I'll show you how to bring the documents over from DotLoop if you already had completed documents there that you haven't moved over yet. Just a reminder that we cannot complete compliance review activities in DotLoop anymore. So we had asked everyone to stop submitting files in DotLoop as of February 29th. So I already have a loop set up here. And there's two ways that you can move documents over. You can do them one at a time, or they do now have an attach multiple documents feature that was added recently that makes it a little quicker and easier to get everything uploaded. So from DotLoop, you would need to download each document individually using the three dots to the right of the document name. And if you're going to be uploading them right away into the opportunity, you'll see that they just go into your downloads bar down here, and you can just leave them there. You don't have to save them to a separate location on your desktop, but you want to make sure that you do each one individually instead of selecting all of them. If you select all of them and download them at once, DotLoop makes one PDF out of all the documents, and there's no way to split them in the opportunity. So you do have to do them individually. Okay, so let me switch back over now to my opportunity, and you can see my documents that I downloaded are still here in my downloads bar. So if I was doing them one at a time, I'm going to do my consumer notice first. When I click add a file, it gives me the option to upload the file manually, which is what we have to do if we're pulling them from DotLoop, or you can choose to bring them in directly from DocuSign. You'll see there is also a third option here, which is custom folders. If you had created a custom folder and had a document in there that you did need to bring into one of the checklists for a compliance review, you can copy it from the custom folder. I don't see that that's an option or an action that people are going to have to use very often, but it is there should you need it. So for the manual upload, you can see you can drag and drop or browse your files. So if you had downloaded things from DotLoop, say yesterday, and saved them in a folder on your desktop, and now today you were going to be uploading them, you would want to browse your files to find the location where you have them saved. But because we have them in our downloads bar here, we just downloaded them and we're going to upload them immediately, I can drag and drop from the downloads bar, put that file right there. Let's try that again. There we go. And once the document's there, you just hit assign, and then you'll see the document is here. If you need to verify that you got the right thing in the right spot, you can click on the file name and it'll open up the previewer and you can view the document. Now, if you accidentally put the wrong file in that location, if you hit the three dots to the right, you can remove that document and replace it with the correct one. You can only remove things from the placeholders prior to submitting it to the Market Center. So once you hit that submit button, it's going to lock everything in place, and then you can only replace an existing document. You can't remove it anymore. I will just note here that it is important to make sure that your document files are clearly named so that it's easy for you to tell that you're getting things into the right spot. Now, if we wanted to attach multiple files, you can see at the top of the checklist, they have that option there. So if you click on that, you get this pop-up window, and it has all of the placeholders open in the pop-up for you so that you can drag and drop or browse for multiple files at a time. So I'm going to do my affiliate services disclosure and my wire fraud advisory and my listing contract. And my seller's property disclosure. So once you have everything in those placeholders for the multiple documents or multiple files, and just click attach, and then you'll see it's added all of my files that I chose into the correct placeholders. You'll also see on the left-hand side next to the placeholder name, it'll show you which ones are uploaded or not uploaded, and you can also see that by looking down the placeholders on the right-hand side. If there's a file name there, then something has been added to that placeholder. So once I had all of my documents that I need for my listing checklist, I'm going to go ahead and hit Submit to Market Center. And if you're missing one or two things, but you're within that 48 hours after having your signed listing contract, you would still want to go ahead and submit. Now I can continue to add documents to this checklist prior to it being reviewed. So for example, I didn't upload the tax records or the MLS sheet yet. I've already submitted it, but I can go back and add a file. And let's say my MLS sheet has been saved on my desktop. Let me find the folder I have that in. And then I can assign that to that placeholder. And it still shows that I've been submitted. So let me switch over now to the under contract checklist, and I'll show you how you bring your documents in from DocuSign. So when I set up this opportunity, the first thing I did when I went to the Documents tab was there's a dark colored button up here that says Start a Transaction. So when I click on that button, I chose DocuSign, and that created my DocuSign room. And because I'm not an agent and I don't have access to the forms the same way that the agents do, I did have to upload PDFs into my DocuSign room so that I can demonstrate for you. But pulling them in will work the same way as it does for you. So when I go to my placeholders and I want to pull documents from DocuSign, again, if I want to do a single one, I would choose the add a file and then choose DocuSign. And it will give me a list of all of the documents that I have in that DocuSign room. So I want my agreement of sale, I'll choose that. And you can see that it pulls it right into the placeholder. I didn't have to download anything first. And I don't even really have to go to the DocuSign room because it gives me the list of everything that I have there. But again, very important to make sure that your documents are named correctly, especially if you have duplicate documents that have similar sounding names. So if you have an earlier version of the document that's only partially signed and the fully executed version of it have very similar or the same file names, it can be really hard to tell that you're getting the correct one into the right spot. So just to avoid confusion, here's a little tip. In your DocuSign room, once you start getting signed documents back, you go to your Actions button and add a folder. You can create a folder within your room. So I recommend if you make a folder for fully executed documents, and then anytime you get a document back signed, or if you upload something to the room, you can drag and drop it to that folder for your fully executed documents. And it just helps you stay more organized. And then if I go to attach multiple files and I choose DocuSign, you'll see you get this little drop down here. for each document. And it will give you, the root folder is just the main room. That's the existing folder when you create the DocuSign room, but here's my fully executed documents folder. So I know that I want to pull my documents from that because I know for certain that that is my document that's been fully executed. So again, you can attach multiple documents. And I've only added a couple here. You would obviously have additional documents to that when you have something under contract, but for now I'm just going to add those and I'll go ahead and submit. So you'll see it's also changed the status next to my checklist names over here on the left, and it shows me that both of my folders have been submitted for review. And I'm now going to switch over to the Market Center side so I can show you what it looks like from the file reviewer standpoint. So you see I have this tab at the top that says Command MC. That's the command for the Market Center. Agents do not have that tab, so don't worry if you don't see that on your dashboard. You should not. So if I go to Opportunities here and then the Compliance Requests, this is where everything that's been submitted review shows up in 3 different compliance queues. So we have Submitted, Resubmitted, and Changed. Submitted are the opportunities that have just been submitted for the first time. Resubmitted are ones that have been reviewed and returned to the agent, or changes have been made and they have resubmitted it. So that's the ones that need to be rechecked. And then changed are ones where it has been reviewed and whether it was marked returned or approved, something additional has been added or something has been replaced. So when the reviewers see this changed queue, it's assumed that the agent is still working on these because it hasn't been resubmitted yet. So important to remember if you make any changes after it's been reviewed that you do resubmit. And that's one of the biggest differences from DotLoop. When we were doing compliance in DotLoop, we always told you, don't submit it a second time, just make your corrections and then send a message and let the reviewers know that you were ready to be rechecked. But in Command, it is the opposite. You do have to resubmit in order to basically raise your hand electronically and say, I fixed what needed to be fixed, or I need this to be checked again. So when the reviewers come in, they're going to check the resubmitted ones first, typically, because those are considered more pressing. They've already been checked once and they just need something else rechecked, and they're likely closer to settlement than something that's just been submitted for the first time. But I'm going to uncheck those and just look at the submitted ones. Yeah, let me find the one that I just submitted here. So here's my opportunity that I just submitted. So the reviewer would click on review. And then once they're in the opportunity, it looks pretty much the same as it looks from the agent side. Then they're going to choose to review, and they can choose all documents or new documents. So this one's just been submitted for the first time. So the reviewer would choose all because they have to check everything that you've submitted. So when they choose that, it will open each document in order, so they can go and check and make sure that everything's signed, everything is complete as it needs to be, and that the correct documents are in the correct placeholders. Again, just for training purposes, I have blank PDFs in here, but we'll pretend that these are fully executed the way that they're supposed to be. So the reviewer would click approve, and then they'll just carousel to the next document. And let's say this document was missing a signature or missing some of the initials. The reviewer would check to reject the document, and then they can add a note as to why this document is being rejected. So they'll type you a little note in here that you'll get, let's say this is missing second seller signature. And you'll see it attaches the note here. So let me just approve the rest of these. So now you can see that each document that's been uploaded and reviewed shows whether it's approved or rejected here on the left. Anything that's rejected, you'll be able to view the little note just by hovering over the speech bubble icon. So this tells me this is missing seller 2's signature. So in addition to approving and rejecting each individual document, the checklist as a whole will then get the status set. And this one will be marked as returned because there's a correction that needs to be made. So I'm now going to jump back over to the agent side. So once you have compliance review happen on your opportunity, you will get a notification on your dashboard. So where your little bell icon is next to your profile picture, you see there's a red dot. You will also get a notification in your Kelly app. That's your mobile command. So you get notifications in both of those places. So I can see here in my notifications, it tells me my opportunity 123 Example Boulevard has been returned, and I can actually click right here in the notification to go directly to my opportunity documents and see what it is that I need to fix. So now as the agent, you can see which documents have been approved and rejected, and it's very easy. Green is good and red is something I need to give my attention to. So I can see here this was missing a second seller's signature. And let's say I already had this document corrected and I have it saved on my desktop. I can just choose to replace. And you can add a comment back here. It's not necessary, but if you do need to add a little note for additional explanation, you can do that at this point. I'm just going to say I uploaded the wrong version. And then I'm going to choose my corrected, and I'm going to point out here, I have this one saved as corrected affiliate services disclosure. You want to make sure, again, when you're naming your files, when you're saving them, that you're very clear when you're naming them. If you attempt to upload a document here that has the same file name as what you already have in that placeholder, you'll get an error message because it thinks you're trying to replace it with the same document that's still going to be incorrect. So if you are saving corrected versions or completed versions, just make sure you somehow indicate that in the file name so that you can get the correct one in there. And when you replace a document, you'll see then now it changes purple over here on the left and tells me that it's replaced. And also my checklist status has automatically gone to changed because it was returned, but I've made changes to it. So it is important that once you make any corrections that are needed, that you go ahead and hit the resubmit to Market Center. And then again, that will electronically raise your hand and say, hey, I made the corrections that I needed, so that they can go back in and just check the documents that were replaced and hopefully get you approved. So let me switch off of the sharing here for a second. And does anybody have any questions on that process up to this point? I don't see anything in the chat, but if you want to unmute yourself, if you have a question, you can go ahead and do so. Nobody? Okay. I do also want to show you a couple other little tricks. So let me go back to the screen share for just a moment. So I have my listing opportunity here, and let me go to my under contract checklist. And let's say I'm under contract with this buyer, but something happens and the buyer backs out and this deal terminates. Do I have to start over with a brand new opportunity? And the answer to that is no. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, you don't want to duplicate work that you've already done. So my listed checklist is already just waiting to be rechecked, and I don't need to upload all of those documents again somewhere else. And two, for the artificial intelligence in the sales pipeline, you don't want to create duplicate opportunities for the same property. If something happens and a deal falls through and you are potentially or hopefully going to be going under contract with a new buyer, you don't want to mark it as a lost opportunity and start over again, because that can artificially deflate your closing rate. And we want to make sure that we're giving good data to the artificial intelligence for your calculation of your potential and your probable income on your pipeline. So what do you do then? Because we've got documents in here for the first buyer that's terminated. What you would want to do first is add an item here, and this will give you a custom checklist item, and you can create your own placeholder. So this is where I would put my documentation that it has terminated. And I'm just going to grab a PDF here. So you would upload your fully executed termination document there. That was a big PDF. Sorry, it's taking a little while to upload. Okay, and you can see when you create a custom item, it goes all the way at the bottom of the checklist. And then at the top of your checklist, next to the checklist name here where it says under contract, there's this little drop-down arrow. When you choose that drop-down arrow, you have the option to add a version. So I want to add a new checklist version of the under contract checklist. And when you click create new version, you get a new checklist that doesn't have any documents in the placeholders. But it preserves that first one, which is something that we need to do for our obligation to the state for maintaining files. If we need to go back to that first buyer, the documentation is all still here, and those documents can be viewed at any time. And likewise, if you need to go back to that checklist for some reason to look at any of those documents, you can do so here as well. So it's very easy to toggle between your checklist versions. And if this should happen to terminate again and you need to create a third version of it, you can do so. You can make as many additional versions of the checklist as you need to. So that was something that was added actually a couple of months ago, but I don't think a lot of people know that that option is there yet. Does anybody else have any other questions at this point?
Nope, we're fine. I'm fine.
Everybody's fine? All right. Well, that's your basics of your compliance process in Command. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up if nobody has any additional questions. But as always, if you do have questions or if you get stuck, have any questions about what's required for your files, you can certainly reach out to me at any time. Oh, Lisa, do you have a question? No? Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you, everybody, for attending today, and I hope that helped to shed a little light on the compliance process in Command. And we'll have the video of this class uploaded to the new Market Center YouTube channel by tomorrow. So if you want to come back and rewatch it at any time, you're certainly welcome to. And we also have you can link directly to Katie Joe's YouTube channel from the Market Center's YouTube channel. And we also have the link to the Keller Williams International YouTube trainings that have been recorded and uploaded as well. So you can get all of your recorded remote trainings in one place.
Thank you.
Thank you.